Yo! This is Charlie, and I'm officially 2 years post-top surgery. So celebrating that anniversary, I wanted to take this time to talk about the top 5 things that I've learned since my top surgery. So I read a quote the other day that said that cis people put a gender on their bodies, whereas trans people build a home for their gender, a nest. And that has really been my experience of building my body around top surgery and around just coming out as myself and my identity. So I really want to talk about the top 5 things that I've learned from that lesson. Number 1, my body does not define me. So a little bit of background about me. The top surgery is actually the first thing that I did on my transition journey. At the time, I was identifying as a butch lesbian, and I had questions about gender, but I didn't really know what it all meant. The only thing that I knew concretely was that I did not want boobs. So I really wrestled with it for a long time of, should I do this thing? Should I not do this thing? And the conclusion that I came down to as a non-binary person, and at the time I actually hadn't even identified as non-binary, but at the time what I did decide was that I was empowered to do what I needed to do to be happy. My body doesn't define my identity. At this point, I learned about how people's bodies might not match their identities, and that that's okay, and that we are all in a process every day of taking steps to get closer and closer to the person that we truly are. The way that we present outside helps people to understand us and helps us to connect with the world. And what I found was that me being authentic and what I wanted for my body helped me to connect with the world in a way that started me on this journey towards fuller knowledge of myself and fuller knowledge of what my body and identity could mean. Separating those two things gave me the freedom to do that. So that brings me to my second point, which is that even though my body does not define me, people's responses to my body does have an impact on me. After I went through my top surgery, I started thinking more critically about gender and what it meant for me and what it meant for my life. And I started going by they, them pronouns in my personal life, and I go by he, him pronouns at work. And that is when I really ran into the wall that a lot of trans people run into. Some people were resistant towards using my pronouns and really respecting my gender in this way. And for me, as someone who was first establishing that and first figuring out what it meant for me, it really does affect me. People's opinions, while they don't change my identity, they can make it so much harder for me to live in my identity. And I think that's the thing that people are missing. People think, okay, I'm just going to be hard on this. I'm not going to use the pronouns. I'm not going to respect this person. But in reality, it doesn't change their mind. It didn't change my mind. All it did was put me in a place where I was isolated and where I had to find a new community of people who were actually going to support me and respect me, and more importantly, be a part of this journey that I'm on. They said that's really the greatest act of love, to walk alongside somebody while they're going through something. And for some reason, I think it's so weird that people have decided to just not do that for their trans loved ones. But the cool thing is that there are people out there, and there is support and there is community. And honestly, the more authentic I am with myself, the more I can actually find people and attract people who do want to support me and who do want to be on this journey and who do want to be part of my life. So that's my hope in the midst of this, that for all of you who are having a hard time finding people who will support you and who will walk alongside you with this, that it does come, and it comes from you being authentic. So it's a weird chicken and the egg thing of, do I do the thing and then people support me, or do I wait for people to support me then do the thing? And while ideally you would have the support, and that's the most fertile ground to grow, but sometimes it has to be the other way. So don't give up hope. So the third thing that I learned is that change does have to be self-motivated. So after going through people's resistance to my pronouns and really living in my identity, I had somewhat the opposite reaction of okay, if you guys have a problem with this, I'm going hard for it. I am changing, and I am doing this thing, I'm transitioning, and But what I learned in that is that that also is not a good response. That transition is actually for me. It can't be as a response to other people's treatment of my identity. It has to be self-motivated. It has to come out of what I want for me and the changes that I'm going to see long term. Because when I started thinking about it, I realized that the people who didn't support my transition, some of them would be in my life long term and some of them won't. And at the end of the day, I'm the one living this experience. So what is important to me is to build a body and to build a nest that can take me on the long term. I started thinking through what things would help me to live better in this body. And top surgery was one of those things. Starting testosterone, changing my name, all of those were in this process of me deciding to do things for myself and not for people's reactions to me. And I think that self-motivated change is the only thing that helped me to survive to number 4. The biggest lesson that I learned from top surgery is to live in the moments of change. So when I first got top surgery, Beth and I decided that I would not judge the outcomes of that until a year. Everything that I looked at online said that it takes a full solid year to be fully recovered from top surgery. It really did take that year. Different stages in the process I was more or less happy with, but taking that time to accept the full range of transition and the full range of what even this surgery would settle into gave me the freedom to love it and to love the process of it and to love the way my body is changing and to love my body itself and to reimagine what it could look like. I think that time was really important for me. It helped me to judge the changes correctly. So no, I am not happy with everything about my top surgery. But after that year, I could look at it and say, whoa, this is significantly better than the life that I had before. And going back to number 3, if I made that change for myself, then I have no reason to be upset with living my truth. The 5th and final thing that I learned from top surgery is that me living authentically and genuinely myself really does give people the freedom to do so themselves. I feel actually more confident and it shows in the world. I live more authentically, I live more passionately, I live more engaged with the world around me because I feel like I am an active participant in it. I don't think necessarily I would have said before that I'm not an active participant in my life. I'm not like moving things forward and making choices for myself, but in reality I wasn't. I was too scared of what people would think about me and about my transition and about the things that I was thinking, which is weird. So instead of putting that out there, I chose to hide myself. And I would say that those are some of the biggest regrets of my life. If you guys get nothing else from this, I really hope that as you guys are out there living your transition and if you want, going through your own top surgery, that you live the most authentic you and that everybody else will either get with it or get going. So thanks for watching. Definitely like and subscribe below, and I would love to hear more about things that you guys have learned from your own top surgery and transition journeys.